Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Social Media Fridays, Social Media and Local Search. Each week we meet here to talk about what happened last week in social media and also about local search. You can ask questions on the Social Media Fridays community on Google+. Also on our Facebook page at Dumb SEO Questions, and also on Twitter, Dumb SEO QS. All right, with us today we have Edwin Young. Started at the wrong end. Edwin is CEO of IDEST in the Netherlands. You can find Edwin at idesthost.nl. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also an SEO. He's also a Google Top contributor on the AdSense community. Tim Capper is proud to call himself an SEO. He's also a conversion rate optimization specialist. Yes, of course you're an SEO, Masataki. Tim is webmaster of onlineownership.com. He's also a Google Top contributor on the Google My Business community. And William Rock is an SEO from Kansas. He's also a Google Top contributor on the Google Search community. And William can be found at williamrock.com, and Tim can be found at onlineownership.com. Oh my God. Well, okay, we've only got a few items tonight. The first one was an interesting one in the EU. Oops, I dropped my microphone. I'm not having a good night, am I? There we go. Links can be an infringement of copyright. However, Edwin thinks because this is EU, maybe it will change next time. Who wants to take this one on?
So hyperlinks are a copyright infringement? I didn't get a chance to read the article, sir.
All right, yeah. That's what the court has held. If you link to a site.
Welcome to the EU, mate.
Beg your pardon, Tim?
You.
Well, actually, this is already active in the USA, because if you link to copyrighted material that is posted on a property that it's not authorized to do so, you have to remove that link, as far as I know, right? You're not allowed to promote copyright infringements. Here in the EU, it is basically complicated. Sometimes the EU court says, no, you cannot link. And sometimes the EU court says, yeah, that is a freedom of speech. In this particular case, the court looked at if it was for profit and that they were the only source of communication to the public before the official publication. And because of that, the link was a violation of copyright infringement.
So that's,
but it's not.
Is that only to the website link, or is that also including social media link?
then pretty much every link in the world, right, which in theory should be copyrighted, every link to an actual site, not say like a social media post or something like that, is pretty much infringing then. I mean, the web would completely fucking crash if this was because people would not link.
Yeah.
I mean, how the hell would they ever enforce this? I suppose it's up to the copywriter, up to the actual site, to then say, well, who's linking to my page, to track them all down, and then take action. But, I mean, who in their right mind would do that?
Well, in this case, it was a third party that somehow got access to the naked pictures from Playboy, and they hosted it on their server. From memory, I think the server was in Australia. The Dutch publisher, GS Media, then made an article and linked from that article to that third-party server where those infringing copyright pictures were.
So, were the links from the Dutch site to the image files directly? So,
no.
or were they linked to a web page
they were not embedded in the article, if you mean that.
No, so it's not embedded, but let's say you could see these pictures and then there would be links, right? Were those links pointing directly to the image? So if you clicked on it, you essentially saw the image. Or did it link to another website hosted in Australia with those images?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that other if it was linked directly to the image or to a directory with those images, or if it was linked to another page with that images embedded on that page. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because that would be interesting to know. Because if someone's directly linking to an external image, so it's hosted in Australia, but you're linking directly from your own page directly to the image, then I think, and then you can be reasonably confident that the image is commercially valuable, and then someone tells you that's the case, then yeah, I think that's I can see where the court is coming from.
I don't think the court said that. The court came from the for-profit side. So GS Media, when they post an article, they have ads on them, etc., and they use that particular publication to make profit, and thereby they were infringing on Playboy's property.
Yeah, no, I don't dispute that. It's that because it's a for-profit site, and in a sense, it's, if you like, inverted commas, professional site. It's a media site. That the assumption, I suppose, is that such companies would make sure that the content that they host would be okay as far as intellectual property rights are concerned. A media publication would normally take that kind of care, and it is making money from what they host, from their content. So that makes sense to me. The question is how direct that was. You need to be very different things. If you download something, make a copy of it, upload it to your own server, that's a completely different from, let's say, hot linking images from another source.
And certainly, and certainly these big brand, I mean, like Vogue or these things, a photo shoot with a leading headline you know, for a cover shoot, can cost them anywhere in the hundreds of thousands to take those, you know, images. If someone then is promoting those images to another site that's obviously hosting those images in, they would be protecting it, because I guess it's also like, if you think, for example, movies that are being streamed, you know, the Hollywood and that actively go out and try and take down those streams, because it's obviously, you know, it's detrimental to sales, to value, to you know, branding, because often they're not as, you know, well done. You know, like they're not HD. Sometimes they're pretty crap. So in that respect, yeah, certainly when there's that, you know, when there's a monetary value also.
Yeah. And interesting thing is, writers can now go after the person who's uploaded images, you know, illegally, and also people who are linking to that entity. And I think that's the interesting thing. Instead of just going to Australia and say, look, take those down and, you know, pay us. They went after a website was linking to it.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the moral of the story is, if you're going to do that, base yourself in a country that actually protects its people. The UK will, Australia, things like that. So base yourself. Moral of the story is, base yourself in Russia, become a Russian citizen, and you'll, you know, they can't.
Well, it didn't do you any harm, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, so put yourself in a country that looks after its people. Not that I am in any way, shape or form endorsing theft of copyright written material, but what I was going to say is that if you are something like this, base yourself somewhere in a country where they look after you.
Okay. Well, I think that's enough about copyright for one night.
Yeah, my head hurts.
Okay. All right. This one is a little bit lighter. This one is about nude teenage photos, or at least one nude teenager photo. Facebook fails to halt legal bid over nude teenager photo. Tell us all about it, William. No? Anyone?
William doesn't know the story yet, so I'm gonna listen. Tim knows it, right? Do you have a link? Do you have a link to this, Jim?
So essentially, what happened
on your own list? Click.
Essentially,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Essentially, what happened? Yeah. Is one of those cases, from reading it, where, I mean, theoretically they were blackmailed, or they were convinced to take a nude photo of themselves, and then, of course, that image was used, which become quite a norm now with youngsters. So essentially, then this photo, so regardless of how they got the photo, put it this way, this kid's photo was used on a lot of different posts in Facebook, which was absolutely massively distressing. They had asked for, they had informed, obviously, Facebook, but it was not taken down immediately. which resulted in this case being brought against Facebook. The first appearance in court is generally to decide whether this is actually, does it have merit, can it go to trial, kind of thing. Facebook, like all large US companies, back on the load of drivel that that they're not essentially the publisher, and that they did take it down, and they can't control basically such massive sites. They lost the first round in that, the judge said, and it's going to court. This is literally going to go to court. I'm in two minds here. They did take it down, although it wasn't an immediate thing. Taken down. There should be some form of protections about this. I mean, Facebook instantly removed an image of that napalm, or was it the napalm girl in Vietnam?
Yep.
Yet they it took hundreds and hundreds of emails, from this girl's family and things like that, or not emails, but alert that this image was out there. And yes, they did take action, but it took a hang of a long time. So I think, it's for my own personal feeling on this, because obviously this would need to go to courts, etc. Is they did take action, and of course you need to allow, when you look at the size of the site, the hundreds and thousands of reports they must get in a day, probably be phenomenal. So, judging by the size of the site and by the take it down, was that reasonable, or did they piss about and actually not take it seriously? That, I think, will be the question, because you can't. So I think that will be the point between, was it taken down within a reasonable amount of time, and was that reasonable amount of time looking at the size of the site, the amount of flagged every day, and so I think that's what personally. I mean, there's a couple of issues there. I think these kind of things where, in a sense, groomed online. I think there was some crazy article that I read where a newspaper did a sort of a test where to see how long it would take to get a kid to to literally take a nude shot of themselves, whether it a body part or the full. And I think the average, the report, there was a load of reporters all assuming different pseudonyms and things like this. I think the average it took was like 15 minutes. A kid somewhere in the world to take a picture of them, or at least online in a camera show them. So I think is something's become absolutely messed up.
Well, and that even goes to Snapchat. I mean, if you take a look at, I put in the chat, cyberbullying. It might not be a completely nude picture, but it's also another form of harassment online. And cameras are in schools all day long. I've got kids, so this one kind of hits me. I was like, what are we doing to protect our children all over the world through this type of information.
How
Yeah.
I understand this particular case is that the lawyers mainly object that the same picture was published a couple of times over in a period between November 2014 and January 2016. There is a DNA process that Facebook announced or published or has a patent for, and so they argue like, okay, the first time we understand that there was a delay, but the second time, due to the DNA process to identify that image, it should only took a couple of seconds or a minute or whatever.
Or it shouldn't even have been shown at all. I think that's the argument, isn't it?
Yeah.
First time, report it, remove, that's good. Then, but someone has downloaded that, made a copy of it, and then uploaded it again to Facebook. And, it's going to be a constant whack-a-mole operation from then on. And then, okay, it's not, in a sense, it's not good enough for Facebook to say, look, we're going to remove it as soon as you report it. Then the poor family, the poor person has to go and, find the image for Facebook, report, and remove.
That would be a mess. Yeah.
So the argument is that because Facebook has the means of identifying images, so they should have a database or something that would prevent the image from being uploaded to Facebook in the first place, or at least being shown to anyone. I think that's the argument. I think that's the sort of the nub of the issue here.
Yeah, it can be done. I was amazed when in the park next to the Googleplex, it allowed me to upload photos of the entrance to the park, but it wouldn't let me upload a dead penguin. So it can be instantly recognize things. Anyway, okay, let's tweet that and move on to the next. This is the one. This shot doesn't show it, but Google Street View blurred a cow's face. Yeah. It reminds me that there was a young fellow arrived at school one day late with the excuse that he had to take the bull to service the cows, and the teacher said, "Can't your dad do it?" And he said, "Well, he did once, but the bull does a better job." Anyway, what can we say about a cow?
Yeah, I think it's flipping ridiculous, this, because, well,
it's not even attractive.
You've got to look at it this way. Street View it's massive, right? I guess it's an algo that's working its way through. But for example, what I've noticed more and more and more that's happening with Street View is when I'm trying to find buildings for a business that's located somewhere, to check the actual building with where they say they are, if I can see any signage, etc. Residential buildings at the minute seem to have the bloody numbers blurred out on the houses. Like office buildings and things like that, which are you can kind of tell are commercial, even if it's just in a little. Those seem to be left alone, but yeah, it's just random. Yeah,
and
it's an algo.
The weird thing, of course, is that you can search for an exact address, right? Residential address, and you can set the pin there. So and the number's blurred, but you know which house it is. I mean,
Yeah.
in a sense, it's a bit pointless, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because they will still have cars in the street or in the driveways with plates visible. I mean, at what point do you stop blurring things? You know, it's kind of ridiculous. You know, yeah, I mean, are you going to blur little bits on a house the way it's got a security camera so that burglars either know or don't know do you blur out the cat that's sitting on the driveway? I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. You might as well just, you're going to blur and what are you not going to blur? For me personally, I think obviously people still, obviously in Street View, if you see something in Street View that concerns you, I don't know, maybe the kids were playing in a paddling pool and the kids were in the paddling pool, you're freaked out that your kids were in the thing, or anything that freaks you out, you can that image, there's a, you know, provide feedback. You click through on the Street View and then you can report what it is, you can highlight what it is. You know, once the report gets seen by someone, they can actually physically blur it for you, that, you know, bit that you highlighted. I think that's just a far better way to go through, maybe make it easier for people to, rather than this algo randomly blurring bizarre things here and there. Like anything, make it easy to see in Street, nice little image or whatever. I think just highlight it, let people be aware of it, that they can actually blur things. But you know, at the minute, go for it. Is going to be blurred and not blurred, and I don't know. I think it's silly.
Well, now you put it that way, yeah, I mean, it is kind of silly because if you start, like you said, you know, what are they going to blur out next? Is it going? We have the cow, which is just one example, but then, like Edwin put in a link, and basically a part of a house is missing. You know, it's like I'll just blur it out for just, you know, their front door, not just the address though, because I've seen the addresses blurred out in license plates, but not to that extent where it's completely like, hey, what's behind that blur?
Well, you can request that. So somewhere on Google.com you can ask.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that one in that house one, I think saying I don't want my property appearing. So fair enough. But people to make a decision on Street View. Yeah, that should be blurred. Can you please remove it on my car? Or, you know what, when you guys came past, front window happened to be open, and I don't want an opportune burglar thinking, because, you know, some criminals are thick. They might look on Street View and not realize that it came past 10 years ago. Some burglars will look at that and go, oh, look, the window's open. Well, yeah, that was 10 years ago, mate. Owner might want to say, can you just like blur out the window, please? Because, you know, some dickhead criminal thinks he's going to come and burgle it because they think it's still open. Or it might have inadvertently caught someone carrying this flat screen TV into the house. And okay, yeah, fine. Can you please blur that out? Because I'm a criminal knowing I've got like this 75-inch flat screen TV. You know, so there are some reasons. the point is allow people to report it, make it easy for them to find it, report it, request for whatever to be blurred. No, the farmer might have actually requested that the bull's face be blurred.
Yeah, it could be his prize bull. I mean,
yeah, and
they're
they may
horribly expensive.
they may have blurred his ID tag. So for all we know, the farmer requested it, but I think blur. But I mean, you know, that cow could have been this image, sending it off to his relatives and stuff, you know.
I suppose eventually, you know, they would have some sort of technology where people are removed from the Street View image, so they might come around more often and then perhaps take, you know, images at the same point or nearby enough so many times that they can actually sort of edit people away, if that makes sense. So I think that would be, I think, what we eventually end up with, which would be rather interesting because it, you know, it would look as though no one lives anywhere. But I think that would be one way to sort of avoid all this issue. Roads without cars, you know, cities without people.
Yep. All right. All right. Well, that's enough of blurry cows. Let's talk about Tim Kappa's article. His most recent offering, Google Building Attributes for Businesses.
So yeah, I mean, anyone that has left a review. Okay, so let's clarify firstly, this is not like kind of visible in desktop. So this is generally because at the minute, Google believes that more people, especially locally, than desktop. If anybody's left a review on a restaurant or a business in their on the phone or the Google Maps app, will have something pop up once you've left a review, the actual questions that have been asked. Been going on since May 2015. Initially, they were quite, you know, those questions to all different kinds of businesses. Now, over the past, at the start of it, in August this year, Google announced that they were taking away to edit descriptions but we're working on business attributes, editable attributes, which we can see now, which is started off mainly on service businesses, so restaurants, clothing stores, and I found one the other night for supermarkets actually. So essentially, this is what the attributes are going to start looking like. Firstly, they're going to crowdsource it with everything. Whether it's, you know, a tick, so it's a tick on or off, switch it on or off, men's clothing, women's clothing, you know, quick service. Is there a bar, you know, for supermarkets, organic food. So it's going to be kind of like they've been building up based upon the questions for the past year. Ultimately, that eventually business pages will be able to these editable attributes. But looking at the way they're crowdsourcing these, I think that's a little bit of I think that's a bit generous from Google to say that. Honestly, what I think it's going to be, as they crowdsource potential attributes for the business, those will be added into your business admin. Would never be able to actually edit. It would just basically turn on or turn off. They're never-ending revolving door, because it will then possibly get asked, do you know this place? And they will switch it on to say, you know, I don't know, it serves men and women's clothing, but actually it's only women's clothing. So I think it'll be interesting on how they control that. But essentially, these are how they're going to be building up attributes. Now, attributes, we can see how they with restaurants and hotels, where you can use. And what in essence I think is going to start happening with the build up is you will be able to, so one, it'll be defined in search. So for example, rather than just saying supermarket, you know, it'll start being able to define it based upon known attributes, clothing, men's clothing, I don't know, organic foods, etc. So there's going to be two things going on here. The search local will become much more defined based upon attributes. Search is something. So at the minute, if you searched, I love these conversations. So I searched men's clothing, it'll just literally show you pretty much everything in your area in the map or in the local pack that actually it doesn't actually differentiate. What this will allow to do would actually start providing a much more, and obviously depending if it's included in the filter section, you could actually then use the filter to refine your search. It'll work in two ways, obviously with the initial search or filter within it. So yeah, it's getting really interesting. It is allowing users that they have been doing within search bird to actually use tightly controls to get a very accurate search result in most cases. This allow them to transfer that into an actual maps result. Oh, very interesting.
I also think this is for Google Voice search, right? So you're in the city and you want to have some coffee, and then you speak to Google Now. I want to have coffee now, and then Google Now will give you a map. And if the attribute is great coffee, it might be a little bit bigger pin or smaller, depending on the different attributes and maybe the reviews. The other questions they asked, if there's a vintage place or place for students. I can see that happening for voice search a lot, where you're on the street or in the car and you just ask Google where to go.
I think if they want to start going down the search thing, they need to actually sort out understanding of search, because it may be brilliant when it essentially you have like 10 million people. Google, please, speaking like Muppets, because it never flipping understands you, and it picks up conversation halfway down the road, and then you're having to repeat yourself, and then it hears someone saying something else, and it said, "Did you mean?" Because someone's got a higher pitch behind you,
Well, the
Long way
easy
to go.
one, the easy one works quite well. Like restaurants near me, it's quite
Yeah.
that works well. But yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're right on the voice search has been very difficult if everybody's doing it at the same time, the OK Google thing. But when you actually go on the Maps app itself, right, you were talking about, categorizing up, what's around me, and it just basically typed in restaurant, and it basically will just give you all that grid of everything that's around, and kind of knows. I mean, if you're basically disabled, right, you're going to be more prone to find restaurants that have wheelchair accessibility, right? Or even a wheelchair accessibility to the table. And some places you get there, you're like, oh, I can't even fit in the door. So I think that those attributes are helpful for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, you don't want to have to just keep doing the voice search because it's hit or miss still. But
Yeah. Essentially, I still look like a dick trying to use voice search. And especially the older generation who actually even slower, but even kids have to, it actually slows them down and makes them enunciate their words better. So actually we could call this a language learning, a learning tool for kids. They have to use voice search only and use it for enunciation. And can you imagine? That would be brilliant. We would like this no more. They'd be on, OK Google. You know what? I've just worked out how to sort out
Yeah, and
pronunciation.
maybe you should toggle between Afrikaans and English, Tim.
Yeah.
you could build a tutorial on that, Tim.
Yeah, we'd have completely uneducated people, but they'd all be speaking in Queen's English. Amazing. All because of a voice search that requires you to enunciate. That would be very fun.
Okay. Do we have any other items of general business? I think we'll declare the meeting closed. Oh, yes? Can't see any nods. All right. Look, for watching us, thank you. We are truly grateful. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But for now,